Hello and welcome back to my studio. Today I'm going to be painting a cat portrait on a 10 by 10 inch canvas panel in oils. So this is going to be a very loose style impressionist painting. So lots of large bold brush strokes. So I hope you enjoy it and let's get painting. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is give the entire canvas a coat of raw umber using or thinning it with terps or low odour thinners all over the canvas, just to basically get rid of the white. And then with a thicker raw umber, using a small bristle flat brush, I'm just going to start adding in those dark areas, the darkest areas. Now when you're painting with oils, it's always best to start with the darkest areas first. And you work from dark to light, which is the opposite from watercolour, where you would work from light to dark. With oils, you work from dark to light, so put those big, darkest areas in first. I could use a larger brush for doing this at this stage, but I just feel I can handle doing what I'm doing just with this small brush here. It's not particularly small, it's not a fine brush at all, but and it'll do for just scrubbing in some of these dark areas. I'm going to have a window area up here where the light should be streaming through. Well, that's where the light is going to be coming from. So I'm going to put in a few different colours now into this background behind the cat to throw it out, to make it stand out, by putting some blues in there and bluey green colours. And Payne's grey and white gives a lovely grey, and if you mix a little bit of that with that raw umber that's already on the canvas, it produces a lovely neutral grey tone. And using different strengths of that to create variety. And I'm going to use the same colour now for some of these shadow areas in this little pillow or cushion. Don't forget there's one there under the cat itself. And adding one or two of those colours elsewhere to produce a colour harmony throughout the painting. Now I'm putting in a mid-tone using Payne's grey and white, again a little bit of that raw umber, and then going lighter still for these areas that are going to have the lightest area. And of course the brightest area is going to be in this window area. So that's where the lightest part of the paint is going to be. And for that light, I've used white and a tiny bit of cadmium yellow. Only a tiny bit. And it's just to take the coldness off the edge of the white. So I can add a little bit of orange to that as well, just to create a little bit more warmth in the pillow here. Just to create some pinkish tones. And then a neutral grey tone in some of those darker areas of the white areas of the cat. So where it's got white fur, you want a certain colour that you can put the highlights and the darks onto. So it's a little bit warmer here as we go towards the edge of the cat. And then I can start putting in some of the colours of the cat, which is going to be orange and reds. So using a mixture here of cadmium orange and cadmium red in different quantities to create those different colours. I'll add one or two of those into the cushion as well and elsewhere in the painting, just to give that colour harmony. I like to do this whenever I'm using a colour. I like to add little bits of that colour elsewhere on the canvas to give an overall harmonious quality to the painting. So putting in some of the darker reds now. And allowing the paint to more or less blend itself. I'm not trying to get a nice smooth blend of paint. If I wanted to do that, I would use a blending brush, such as a fan brush, to actually blend and smooth that paint out. But I don't want to do that. I want to keep this nice and vibrant, and so you can see all the brush strokes. And that's what Impressionist painting should be about creating beautiful, lush, thick brush strokes that from a distance can look like realism, whereas it isn't. It's not realism. It's just accurately placed so as to give the impression of realism. And that's what Impressionism is all about. Giving the impression of an image. So putting some of those highlights back in here now with thicker paint. And the lights should be very thick paint and the darks should be thin. And this is how the old masters used to paint. Particularly Rembrandt used to love this technique of painting thin dark areas and thick light areas. His thick light areas were just full of impasto and absolute globs of paint he used to put on. But the thin areas, the dark areas, were washes of thins over thins, and it created interest within those darks. They weren't a flat colour. And for those of you interested, go and study some of Rembrandt's paintings. They were beautiful, and he was an absolute master of the art. So, still building up the cat little by little, adding little bits of colours here and there. Some cadmium oranges, some bright areas. Using the brush it's a bristle brush, so it will show the brush strokes very nicely and very easily. So let the brush do the work. You shouldn't have to struggle with oils. It should basically paint itself if you've got the right brush, the right colour. But when we get to a certain stage in this painting, which is all very nice and loose, I'm going to start putting detail into the eyes, like this. I'm actually going to do the eyes fairly realistic, a realistic style, realism, only up to a point. And that will make them really stand out against the rest of the painting. But I also want them to blend with the rest of the painting. So they're not going to be absolutely perfectly photographic, but what I have to make sure is these eyes are exactly the correct shape, with the correct colours and the correct lights put in the correct place. And this may take a little bit of time to do this. A little bit of time, get it right, because there's no rush. You've got all the time in the world to do this. I didn't. I only had a certain amount of time to do this painting, but you should have all the time in the world to get it right. So this little cute nose here, and they do have little cute noses, cats, is a pinky red colour, which I'm going to put a few highlights on here, just to bring that colour correct there. And I'm going to add one or two of those colours, reds, into the eye, just here and there. So I'm going to have greens, orange, reds in the eyes, as well as elsewhere in the painting. So it's going to have a little highlight there on the edge of the nose and on that nostril, because the light is coming from the left hand side, and I want to catch light in the eye there on that side, and I want one a little bit darker on this side, because the right side of the cat is in shadow, so those highlights will not be as bright. So just now adjusting some of the white areas of the cat, which aren't pure white. You have to look closely. I'm going to have a little highlight on the chin there. Look closely at your reference, and then close again, and then even closer in order to get it right. This is one of the basics of painting accurately, is to be able to study and look at your reference and gain the utmost accuracy from it. And that only comes with time and practice. You have to keep doing it, until eventually it becomes second nature. And it all happens automatically. So the best way to become good at art, at painting, is to do it. And keep doing it. It's the only way to become good at anything. And practice makes perfect, they say. And I'm sure there's a lot of muscle memory involved in it as well, really. Certainly with the handling of the brush. But maybe there is also with mixing colours. I was a photographic retoucher in my youth, in my early days, where we actually had to adjust the photograph itself by painting onto the photograph. So we had to match colours and tones absolutely perfectly. So you learned how to do that purely by doing it. Nobody is born with an ability to do this or an ability to paint. You have to learn how to do it. Just like anything else, just like how you learn to read and write. It's just like that. So whenever you can, you practice, practice, practice. And each painting is a practice session. I'm learning stuff every day, something new. Even now, after 60 years of painting, I'm still learning something new with every painting. And that's what's wonderful about this whole thing about painting. It just keeps you alert. Alert to the possibilities, of which are endless, and is only down to your own creativity. It's only limited by your own creativity, so let your creativity go wild. And just enjoy yourself. That's another point. You must enjoy yourself when painting. If you're not enjoying this process, you shouldn't be doing it. It should be fun. And that fun will actually come out and show itself in the painting. If you've laboured too much and too long over a painting, it won't have that enjoyment factor about it. And people will see that. The viewer will see that. Okay, I'm just basically fine-tuning now some of these darks, some of the dark areas, and there's one or two little areas I'm not quite happy with, so I'm going over the top of them here and there, making some darker, changing some of the shapes within, and using my finger here and there to blend when necessary, like that. I get covered in paint, but I don't mind. And then in this bottom area here, where it's quite dark, I'm just going to scratch my name into the wet paint, as I usually do. Like that. Now we start putting in one or two little areas. I'm not quite happy with that muzzle there yet, so I'm just adjusting it bit by bit and little by little until I've got it right. A few more of those highlights with very thick paint now. And broad sweeps of the brush on that cushion. Like that, until I'm happy with that. Now I'm going to put in some of these little stray hairs and whiskers that all cats have. And this is what brings it to life. I'm going to put in some random strokes, but also some beautiful whiskers that they have there coming out of the muzzle. One or two on the other side. There, like that. And then I'm just going to put some random scruffy hair marks here and there. And also adjust those eyes. Once again, I'm always constantly adjusting until it's right. So those eyes are not far off now, but I'll just put in a few more of these random marks. Messy marks. I love these. I love doing this part of the painting. like that. Now I'm going to really define these eyes because the eye shape there is not quite right, so that's much better. And I'll keep doing this until I'm happy with it. I'm just about there now. That mark is a bit dark. I'll smudge that off with my finger in a little while, but just adjust this eye here with some more darks to get the shape perfect. And once I'm happy that all that is correct and as I would want it, then that's the painting finished. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching this video and hopefully found it rewarding and entertaining. Let me know if you have any comments or questions that I may be able to help you with. And I look forward to you joining me on my next painting video. So until then, have a lovely day and happy painting!